All right, let's move on. We're going to get a little behind here. Running backs, shallow league options. We've got some of these guys. I'm amazed they still stay under my 80% threshold, and I don't know how. I think it's just because so few people are still actively using waivers. We got Jalen Warren, Ezekiel Elliott for as long as Ramondre's out. Devin Singletary is my favorite by far. Antonio Gibson for as long as B-Rob is out. Could be back this week. Gus Edwards with Keaton Mitchell done for the year. Medium league options. Charbonnet, who's getting a fair amount of work. CEH, who seems to be touchdown dependent. Same with Jerick McKinnon, who's a touchdown machine in December. Ty Chandler, I like. I like a lot of these top two groups here. Deeper leagues, Tyjae Spears, Roschon Johnson. I don't really want anything to do with Tennessee, and the Bears are just kind of rotating backs. I want nothing to do with that. Dart throws, Chase Brown, I think, is a decent home run threat. He produced all right, but he doesn't, unless he breaks off that long touchdown, he's not going to win you anything. And some guys I really want no part of, but they're desperations. Chris Rodriguez, Trey Sermon, Patrick Taylor, Jordan Mason, Amari Demercado, and Tyler Goodson, with the lone exception being Zamir White. If we hear that Josh Jacobs is out again, I'm not sure because it's still a little early in the week for any official statuses. Thoughts?
Yeah, I hear that. Gus Edwards, loved him at the beginning of the year. Right now, it's a concern because he is just not seeing the volume he once did. Thankfully for him and his fantasy value, obviously not thankfully for Keaton Mitchell. Mitchell tore his ACL. He's done. All right. But an interesting name up here, even though the matchups are tough, might be Justice Hill, who, saw a fair amount of work once Mitchell went out. Mitchell was absolutely crushing before he left the game. So Hill, if he jumps into that role and if Gus is starting to wear down because he should never have had the workload he had early in the season anyway, I would go ahead and throw a flyer on Justice Hill. But otherwise, yeah, those top names, Warren Elliott, Singletary, all of them. I want those guys over pretty much anyone else here. And then I agree with you, Ty Chandler finally getting the work. Like Minnesota, I don't know what took them so long. I loved Alexander Madison because of the volume. It's just evaporated. He's evaporating too because he's not playing. But as long as he's not playing, Ty Chandler, if he's the guy, I mean, he's looked great.
My favorite here are by far Singletary and Chandler. Situationally, I don't mind Warren, Elliott. Like a lot of these depend on injuries. Like Elliott, how long Ramondre's out. Gus, I think I like Gus over Hill. I think he gets more work. CEH and McKinnon, I think they're going to be volatile like the Bears situation. You don't know who's going to be good that week.
Yep.
Warren, I don't know. People are still on Warren. I don't really want any part of him or Najee. Antonio Gibson is okay as long as Robinson's out, but I don't think he's anything to write home about. Spears and the Titans, their offensive line looks terrible, so I don't want any part of that. And I don't think I want any of these dart throw options. Zamir White only if Jacobs is out. And Chase Brown, I don't mind as a stash. I love him in Dynasty stashing him because I think he's the number one there next year, but it's kind of ugly this year.
Yeah, I think he also had an injury. He picked up a bit of an injury. I don't know if it was long-term, but I think he came out of the game early this past week. So it's just something to monitor. The thing with Tyjae Spears, though, is that even though that offensive line has been terrible, Seattle and Houston aren't too terrible for him because who is it? Leonard Williams now, newly in Seattle this midseason, is just dominating up front. Derrick Henry shouldn't be able to get anything going next week, so that could be a Tajay game. And then against Houston as well, these have opportunities to be Spears games, and especially with I believe the Titans were officially eliminated.
I think so, yeah.
And so this now is the time, and this is the same argument for Roschon, both of those guys in those tiers. Now is the time that these teams really need to get a look at who is going to be with them and who they're rolling with for next season. For the Bears' sake, for Justin Fields' sake, or whoever the starting quarterback is there, whoever the guys in those teams, whoever the new coaching staff is, because they really need to roll that over. They really need to get a look at Roschon Johnson. They started to do it last week. I mean, Johnson put together a decent game on 49% of the snaps, which was his second largest share of the season. But he did it in the passing game, right? 4 of 6 for just 24 yards. What he really needs to do is he really needs to get double-digit carries here. Against Arizona this week is the time to do it. So it's not a safe play, but it's a desperation grab, and maybe just stash him and see what he does.
Yeah, this is a great time of year, especially in Dynasty, if you're not in it, to start stashing the young guys, because typically a lot of the teams that are out of it, they're just shelving the veterans. They know what they're capable of, so they're just moving on to younger guys here.
Yeah.